and we started with just me, and now we have over 48 employees.
Welcome to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. My name is David Gilliland. I'm one of your hosts. Today, we get to have Amber Nelms with us out of North Carolina. She's got a business helping children, families with autism and working with them. Amber, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Tell us just a little bit about you, your business, the name, how you got started.
Sure. Well, I, like I said, or like you already said, I run a autism therapy company. The name is Triangle ABA. We are in downtown Raleigh. And the reason I started is because my own son was diagnosed with autism when he was around 3. And so I, started my journey with first getting him services. And then in the process, as I was meeting a lot of other clinicians, they actually told me, you're really good at this. So I actually went back to school. I got my master's and I worked at several other places first. And I always knew in the back of my mind that I wanted to start Triangle ABA because I knew there needed to be more places. I used to drive 45 minutes to get my son's services. And I knew that one day I would open a place that would provide amazing services just like my own son received. So that's the reason for Triangle. And we started in 2020 and we started with just me. And now we have over 48 employees. So it's been quite the
Wow,
journey. Yeah.
that is quite the journey. And you've probably been through a lot of bumps along the way and discovered some really cool things.
Yes. Yes,
Right?
I
Just
have.
like all the rest of us entrepreneurs on the call.
Absolutely. It's so many different things that I've been surprised along the way that you would never, it's not what I thought was going to happen or what the skills that I thought I was actually going to need. And that changes every single year, the skills that I need to grow in.
Yeah. Since, let's say, I mean, after you got past the you alone and then you kind of built a bigger team and you got past, you got to like 10, 15, 20 people. What are some of the lessons you've learned now as you've moved? Like, I mean, a team of 40, that's a big group. What are some nuggets that you've learned that have helped you succeed?
Well, honestly, I think the biggest thing, and you would probably agree with this with the lead entrepreneur, is the idea that you really need to have a clear vision of like why you're doing it. And I know that's how I've gathered people around me. They know that I actually care about wanting to make a difference in children's lives. And so they could see that from me from the very beginning. And then the also piece is one of my core values is see the individual. So I've always been really big about seeing each person that joins the team and understanding their giftings and say, hey, let's build this together. And that's another core value is like, we built this together. We can't do it alone. And you are a valuable team member, no matter if you are just the direct level staff or you're all the way up. Each person has a unique gifting to bring to the table. And why not take the time to really understand what that is? So I do think that was a huge part of the success of Triangle ABA thus far is that I'm always looking at during the every interview I've ever conducted, I always ask the person very much like, what's your real life like? Like, what do you like to do? What do you enjoy? Even outside of the role that they're applying for, because that helps me understand, you know, what are the small little things that also make them come alive so that, I can plug them in even just in a group to interact with so they have that support and that's a huge factor in my field is that most companies do not have a lot of support for clinicians and they burn out because this is a very challenging very rewarding but also challenging work, working with somebody that can't communicate, it takes a lot of patience, so making sure all of my staff have that support so they don't burn out is highly essential.
No, I love that. I mean, first, to have a talent magnet to pull in the right people by having a vision that
Mm-hmm.
they see that up and down the ladder, it's how are we going to have impact?
Yeah.
It's not just a roll up strategy of someone buying a whole bunch of clinics out there to
Yeah.
make their revenues and profits. And uh, people get to know we're part of making the difference, which is why they go into the industry in the first place. And then, second,
Mm-hmm.
I love your focus on the individual and seeing that because everyone wants to know they matter
Yeah.
regardless of the job. It sounds like your staff really get to experience that with you.
Hmm.
How does that change the way they work, though? That that help to where kind of they lift with you instead of you drag them along, or is it they just stay longer? Do they work harder? How's that really pay out? Because sometimes it feels like the more people, the more headache, and you got a lot of people.
Well, there is some of that, you know. And I think one of the things I've had to really work and grow at is making sure everybody else shares that same core value and how they lead. So, as we've grown, one thing I've struggled with is making sure the people that I put over others are actually living out that core value. When it was just me handling all those things, I always made sure to do that. So, something that I know I could do better and would have to do for us to continue to grow. So the answer is it was easier said and done when I was able to meet with every key person in the company. Much more challenging as we grow. So, yeah.
So you kind of shifted into how do I lead other leaders, and how do I help them really embody what I and the rest of the team care deeply about, so
Right.
that culture lives beyond you. And when I say culture, I don't mean like ping pong tables and
Right,
toast,
right, right, right.
but rather the way we do things,
Mm-hmm.
our our norm. The root of the word culture is cult. So
Mm-hmm.
these are these are our expectations, our practices, our language, the way we embody everything, and what we sacrifice for. Right, to going to the root of that word. Okay, no, I love that. What a great insight.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that that they say most entrepreneurs struggle with, right? Is to be able to go and translate that next to their leaders and make sure that's constantly, you know, embodied through the next people you put in place.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and it makes all the difference because people don't usually quit their jobs; they quit their manager, their direct leader,
Yeah.
and it's because they see the hypocrisy, or they don't like what they stand for, or it
Mm-hmm.
rubs them wrong, or
Right.
it's different than what I was used to. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm working
Mm-hmm.
for some other leader, and whatever happened, I guess Amber is no longer in touch. She's got some jerk in the role, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's some of the things more recently I've observed that I need to clean up. Yes. That's just the honest truth. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that is wonderful insight to share. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now you're at this phase, which is just big. I mean, you've got a lot of work going on, and a lot of change and transition. What
Mm-hmm.
kind of challenges are you struggling with? Maybe we can help you a little bit on the call and the listeners through you.
Well, I am having the challenge of needing to put somebody into one of the highest positions in the company, and trying to transition people into, I've had a clinical director there for 2 years now, and, he isn't going to be the right fit as we move forward. So that is going to be very challenging to help, guide the team, and everything's okay, and that, that we're going to have a new person stepping in, and possibly I am going to have to be the interim for a little while in that position until I find the right person. So, I mean, I think that's my biggest challenge. How do I do that when um, people are just used to one way? And, people also get nervous whenever change needs to happen. So that's my biggest challenge. How do I make sure I don't lose people during that transition time, and that they stay calm and they understand, like, for us to continue to be the company that I want us to be, where we're really caring for people, really support it, really able to look at the quality and have it done consistently, then we are going to need to make some changes. But change is scary for people. So, how do I prepare them, and how do I do that in a way that doesn't cause panic? I guess is my question.
Yeah. And are you talking about a new clinical director from the ranks, or an outside one that we're plugging in?
I was bringing an outside person in, was my plan. And I have had several interviews, and, people that I just got off the interview for
Okay.
that.
And I only ask that because when you said how I do that, I'm translating the question down and see if I get this right. To how do I help my team accept, function well with a new clinical director? How do I prepare
Mm-hmm.
them? And that's the core, not the finding of this person right now. You've got a plan around that. We're looking at the how do I insert them and get the team ready to receive them and help that move forward well, right?
Yes.
What what a great question. Because I mean, most of us when we're trying to plug somebody in, we're trying to get something off our back, and we're like, I just need to hand it to someone so I can get to all this other stuff. They can take care of it.
Yeah.
But the insight to know that this is a key role that could change the dynamic of your entire company and its fortunes and its purpose, right? So finding the right person, yes, but kind of like an organ transplant, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if we don't get it right, if we don't do it right, that we could have rejection, right? Tell me more about your worries there.
That's the huge part of my worry, that if we don't get it right, then people are going, be like, what is this? Like, what's happening? Why are we doing this? Or also just worried, like, well, what if she doesn't find somebody? Like, and now she has to like try to do both at the same time. Like, can we really trust that this lady can do her role as CEO and be interim clinical director while the process is happening? Once I announce that, the panic that might ensue is the biggest thing that I'm concerned about.
Great. Let's hit a couple pieces that hopefully are helpful as
Okay.
you go through there. Um, First is that leaning in heavy at the announcement time to the team. So let's say you don't have the clinical director in yet. You're not announcing that we've hired them.
Yeah,
You're
that's what I
announcing the
want.
change is coming, right? Because you may
Yes.
be filling the role. But still announcing to the team and letting them know very early on of your confidence in them because you've established a relationship of seeing the individual and valuing them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, it's like this core goal that you have. I mean, this core value that really drives a lot of decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and again, leaning into it, helping them know that though people may change, my vision hasn't,
That's good.
or though people may change, our vision hasn't, and
Yep.
anyone who won't serve this vision won't last. Don't worry.
I have one more key piece to this that would help you understand this significance of how I need to handle this. The current clinical director is planning on opening his own company. So the way that I bring this up is it's very delicate. Like, do I share that? Do I not? I mean, this is a very pivotal part of how I do this.
It's a great question. You're going to have to work on that because we could go a lot of directions on that.
Yeah.
Like, do I share it? Don't I? What's the timing? All that sort of thing. You'll
Mm-hmm.
need to figure that out. But let's talk about then, let's pretend either way, whether or not you decide early on to tell the team that this is happening and tell this clinical director, or if you decide to tell after, that person's been let go and whatever else, those changes are happening for your business, and then you announce it. I think there's a piece of the work, and sorry, not to lessen that question. We just have to choose which question we talk about on this call right now. And so, very important question. Let's
Mm-hmm.
stick with how do we prepare the team for a new leader,
Yep.
and a few things that may be helpful there. One is yes, leaning into this vision. So, what your purpose is, what your core values are, and what the mission is, and reiterating that everything and everyone is is there to serve the vision, and all side ambitions, all hopes, everything is subjugated to the vision. The vision is first and foremost. When they hear and see that that is not changing ever, and that one of those core values is how you see and believe in the team and what they can do, I think leaning into that is really, really key. And to just keep doing, because what's happening is they're like on a let's say they're on a dock and the waves are coming and it's pitching, right? And they're like, oh, I want to hold on to something. They need to know that dock is anchored securely. So, like, though things are shaking right now, platform's not going anywhere. going to settle. We're going to be able to keep moving forward. Okay, so they need to know they're anchored, and that vision is what's going to anchor them. So leaning into that, and then here's just a little tool that I use when you get the new leader in. So whether you have interim or the team is taking different assignments along the way and doing tasks, kind of being groomed, taking care of
Mhm.
stuff they didn't have to do before until a new leader is fully in place. Then when the new leader comes in place, I like the very first meeting to be something I call leader assimilation. Uh, and so just imagine this: you get everyone that's going to report to them. And that may be the whole company. Okay,
Mhm.
everyone that's going to report to them, they're all in one room, and then the new leader comes in the room, and the leader can have this facilitated, or they can do it themselves at the beginning, where they say, "Look, my whole job here is to serve the vision and what we're trying to achieve, and to get to know you. These core values that have been talked about all along. The reason I'm here is because that's how I live too. Okay, I'm so excited to find my people to be with, and my job is to support you and to succeed. But I want you to get comfortable with who I am and how I manage and whatever things you may be wondering about. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the room, and you're going to get to ask and write down every question about me together. Every question you ever wonder about. Pretend you're at the water cooler, and a bunch of you are going to write them down, and you're going to, and I pull out big sticky notes, and I have them just go up there, and everyone can write up a thing, or one person can write it up and facilitate. Say, what other questions? Ask more. You say you can ask any question.
Okay.
Okay, so any question. Now, new leader doesn't have to answer every question. That's not the promise. They get to ask every, because I'm saying personal, business, anything's on the table. You ask whatever. I don't have to answer, but I want all the questions asked out there. Okay. And I'm going to do my best to answer everything that I feel comfortable with in a group setting answer. But please ask. And if they're not getting a lot out there, so now the leader leaves, you may want someone in the room who's designated to facilitate, or have an outside facilitator whose job is to say, come on, ask the questions. What is
Mhm.
it what is it that you see in an employee when you're like, there's someone with potential? What are those things you're looking for? That's what an employee wants to know, right? Or tell me what it looks like. What are your expectations if someone messes up? Are you a three strikes and you're out? Are you like, I kind of need to know, because my life at this company is on the line with you as the new leader who has my job in their hand.
Mhm.
So they get to
That's
ask,
good.
right? They get to ask anything they want. That's fantastic. Then you bring the leader back in, and the leader gets to answer all of the questions that have been written there, every one of
Okay.
them. The leader afterwards can also ask the group any and all questions they want to know. They can go back out again and do another round, because sometimes more things come up. Okay, they can do that. What I often suggest is, because of the sake of time, is to then say they go out a day again, and they leave saying, now there'll be other questions that you may have wanted to ask. I need you to know that I am only listening. For this next week, my whole job is just listen and learn from you, or 2 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever you want for their listening time.
Mhm.
So all of your other questions, just come and talk with me. Here's how to schedule time, or if I'm a walk-in policy, or wherever, right? Like maybe I have these blocks, just come in. Here's how you can access me. Ask any question you want. Okay. And so now they get to go, and the staff can talk some more, ask questions, mingle, and get back to work. But that can be helpful. It can also be helpful. I've seen managers in that assimilation just start off with any things they may think they should know about. Here's some of my history. Here's how
Mhm.
I've done things in the past. Here is what I have, some things that have worked for me, but here is the approach I plan on taking. I have one leader, he always goes on a listening tour. Doesn't matter if he's the best of the best, and he was, he's really, really good. But He doesn't do a thing. He gets hired, he does nothing, makes zero decisions for 2 solid weeks. All he does is
Wow.
watch and learn and go around and interview people, interview customers, go on sales visits. All he does is learn. Solid two
Wow,
weeks,
that's awesome.
just learning. Okay, no decisions, nothing. Not even leading in a meeting, right? Just observing. They've got to keep things running for now, and I'm learning. And so
Mhm.
that would be shared in that assimilation. This is what I plan on doing. Okay. Or, here are questions I need everybody to answer. So one leader came in and his first thing was is he passed out questions to every single individual. Who do you serve? What is it they need to accomplish? How is it you help them accomplish that? How do you organize yourself? How do you know that you're actually achieving the end results? Right?
Mhm.
That he's like, I just want to know for you and your role, tell me what that is. Write up an essay, and then we're going to have an interview. And then everyone would come in, and they had a set time, an interview with that leader. So they all knew that, and then they have this. Then you could do this assimilation meeting where the whole team gets to ask him questions or her questions, and that's fun.
Mhm.
So that's a thought. There's an idea. What do you wish you understood more about that, or something else? If I just missed the point.
Um, I guess I'm just wondering if I should use that approach myself, not even the leader that steps in first. I guess that's not really a question, that's just more of a statement. I mean, it is a question, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
you
it's
could think
one
about
thing
that.
I could use that approach myself, as I know I will have to be stepping into that role for at least a 2-week time frame.
Yeah, you could
So
decide what you do there, or if you're only stepping in for a 2 week time frame, maybe you just go listening, right? Do your
that's what
listening.
I'm saying.
Oh,
I mean,
just a
to see
listening
that
tour. Yeah,
being
I
a
like. I'm
very
not running
individual.
anything. I'm just
Yeah.
learning in depth. Could be a
Yes.
great idea. Um,
Mhm.
because the other piece, you're a known entity now, so it doesn't really matter. It's more for newbies to do a new leader assimilation kind of meeting like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah, not a bad thought.
Mhm.
Here's one other direction. You probably have tickling in the back of your head 4 or 5 individuals in your business who you're like, they're going to kind of be a little miffed that they were passed up for this role.
Mm.
If you have any of those, it could be really good before any of this happens to pull them aside and to talk to them.
It's a
Talk to
good
them
idea.
about how much you value them, how you see them, asking what their ambitions and hopes are. It may be that you formulate this role differently if one of these have a hope to do something that you're like, and I know your skills, you could do part of this, and I want
Well,
you to.
that is one thing I have already planned for. There is somebody I just promoted up to director of training already. So it wouldn't make sense. I do think
Yeah,
he could do the role, but he needs a little bit longer in his certification really to step into that. So I did already give him a promotion at least. And so I could probably, go ahead and
perfect.
say,
And letting him know.
you're not our, you do need to be longer to be certified to be in that role. But I'm the types of people I am interviewing are actually people that are used to overseeing multiple clinics. So I can let him know the plan isn't for them to be the main clinical director forever. They would be in charge of both of them, and that somebody else is going to need to rise up into that position. So,
I think that's great. And there's also just the opportunity to let him know by having someone in that role, it's specifically also to help you, to mentor you to be able to step in powerfully to lead a clinic or multiples in time as your mission
yeah,
unfolds,
yep.
and you continue to serve that broader vision. Because I know you're an expansion mind. You're an
Hmm.
entrepreneur through and through. That's the cool thing
I know
about
you
you,
would think
Amber.
I wouldn't be an expansion mind when I have all this going on, but to me, it also is kind of where a lot of this came out. It was when I started pushing towards the expansion that I saw some things that really needed to change. Like I was like, if I'm going to do that, I need to move. This person
Yeah.
has to have the skill, or they have to go. Like it just can't work. So, yeah, for sure,
And
for sure.
that's what a clear vision does for you. You have a
Yeah.
mission. Like, I've got to get to this target, do this thing. Like, oh, got it. That's what I need to do. I need
Hmm.
the right talent in this space, either to build it or to buy it,
Yeah.
to get to that place. Well, great. I'm glad that some of the things we shared might be useful. Any other things that you want to talk about right now on this podcast?
Um, no, I mean, I think that's a really big one right now. I mean, for me, I
Yep.
think that's, I think the only other thing is I'm always wanting to learn and grow. That's another one of my core values. I mean, if there would be a recommendation on something you think I should spend more time building a certain skill set for this type of next level that I'm trying to lead the company towards, then I would highly value that insight.
Well, the idea of learning not just how to lead a team, but how to lead leaders better, there is
Yeah.
a bit of a shift there. And
Yeah.
so there's a skill set that has to be learned and understood. That some things I say goodbye to, and other things I begin embracing. Uh,
Hmm.
I've appreciated some of the research that uh, let's see, it was Paul Thompson, Gene Dalton did. There's a book called Novations. Might be worthwhile, although it's a kind of a nerdy read.
Say
Still
that
got some
name again.
stuff.
I didn't hear it. What was it?
Novations.
Novations.
Novations is the book,
Okay.
uh, and it has to do with the transitions between different levels. It can be helpful as you look to build your teams. That's where some of
Hmm.
the foundational research has been done that is used across most big organizations in the world. Use their sort of ascension model and
Okay.
how you take people from a learner to a doer to a leader to a leader of leaders. They use other terms. Um,
Okay.
we've kind of simplified that out and made it more practical now for the smaller businesses, and have used many other things along the way. But I think their research is pretty foundational. We've got something called the Leadership Academy, the Elite Leadership Academy, that runs a couple times each year. You
Hmm.
could spend a little bit of time in that and gain some of the principles or insights. So it's just think, I need to learn the skill of leading leaders now.
Hmm.
I need to learn that. Where can I get that? What are some of the mindset shifts I need to take? What are some of the new skills I need to develop? And what are some tools that others use as they become leaders of leaders, which is the shift you're trying to make? And as they learn to build others into leaders,
Yeah.
right? So those doers to leaders, that's really what the leader of leaders does. Most of their time is building leaders, right? They're
Hmm.
building leaders, and so that's a couple of first level thoughts to think about. Hopefully, that can be useful to you.
Very helpful. Thank you.
And you can check out our stuff too at growwithelite.com. But I've never really made a commercial out of my own podcast, so I'm probably going to stop. Amber, if somebody
Yes.
has a child who could use some support there
Hmm.
in the Raleigh area or in the future as you dominate the world, uh, how can they look up the great things you do?
Oh, sure. They can find me at triangleaba.com.
Fantastic. I really enjoyed having you on the show today, and I'm for the listeners. I probably came across a little. Amber and I have worked together in the past, and I've gotten to
Hmm.
see a little bit more of her business. She's a phenomenal entrepreneur who is
Oh,
constantly driving
thank you.
to have more impact. So glad to have you on the call.
Thank you so much for having me. And as I learned from you when I was in your program, and I learned from you today, I feel very thankful that you reached back out because that's like you said, that's a huge value for me to always be learning and growing. So thank you for this opportunity.
So delighted. Well, if you as a listener have enjoyed this podcast, please like, share, do all the things that are necessary in your social channels or in your network groups so others can come to know and connect with this community and learn with us. Keep striving, keep growing, keep learning, and keep caring. Until next time.